Hey guys, my name is Shai and this is Evermind Astro. This video is about Scorpio rising and it has taken me a long time to fit myself into this video. That's what this feels like. I have to fit myself into this video because I have so much to say about Scorpio rising that it feels really intimidating to try and narrow it down into one single video, and I know that whatever I say in this video, I'm not going to be satisfied with it. I'm going to feel like I missed the entire point of Scorpio rising. All of that because I'm a Scorpio rising, and I mention that because I know the thing to do is for astrologers to talk about every sign with complete impartiality, and I think that is such a worthy goal, except I'm not really capable of it because when I am really intimately involved with one of these energies, like my rising sign, my Scorpio rising is really emphasized in my chart. I have Pluto in Scorpio on my ascendant. I have Lilith, the asteroid, in Scorpio on my ascendant conjunct Pluto, and then I have Vesta, and it's part of the grand water trine I have, and it's this whole big deal. It's this whole big deal to me, so I obsess about it all the time. And so I just know that there's so much depth here, and I won't be able to get into it really to my satisfaction at all. And listening to myself talk about that, I think that is actually a pretty good example of Scorpio rising. The search for depth, okay? The desire for depth, because we could talk about some of the low frequency shit about Scorpio rising, which is important to note, right? Scorpio rising can be very, very, very avoidant, avoiding the world, hiding, wanting to hide, wanting to retreat into the unseen place. Like Scorpio, I mean, you can definitely be a Scorpio rising who's very outgoing, right? But there will always be something hidden about you that you hide from the world. With Scorpio rising, you can easily be okay with secrets, and that seems bad to some people. But with Scorpio rising and other Scorpio placements as well, you kind of understand that certain secrets or certain things that are just hidden from the world, if you hide certain things from the world, there's nothing bad about that, and that can actually be really beautiful and really beneficial. Some things just need to be kept private, kept secret, in order for them to exist, and there's nothing necessarily nefarious or bad or creepy about that. Scorpio rising can also be very, very aggressive, right? This isn't all Scorpio risings. It depends how, like, what else you got going on, right? Who you are. But Scorpio rising can definitely be extremely aggressive. And you can think Scorpio, two rulers for Scorpio, right? The traditional ruler for Scorpio was Mars, and the new ruler for Scorpio is Pluto. And you kind of end up with some Scorpios resonate more with Mars. They're like Mars Scorpios, and some Scorpios are more like Pluto Scorpios. I'm definitely more of a Pluto Scorpio. If you're Scorpio rising and you're also part of the Pluto and Scorpio generation, unless you have a really significant Mars or Aries placement, really good chance that you're more of like a Plutonian Scorpio. But either way, no matter which way you vibe, Scorpio rising can be, for some, very, very aggressive. And that might be one of the lessons we all need to learn in life. I know I've had to learn this lesson because I started life being a very, very hidden, secretive, reclusive Scorpio rising. And then when I got tired of the world walking all over me, I overcompensated and became a giant bitch, okay? This is especially because of my Pluto, okay? Like, if you don't have Pluto and Scorpio in the first house along with your Scorpio rising, this might not be you. But if you have something emphasizing the aggressive side of Scorpio, you could become really, really overly aggressive with self-defense, right? Kind of using your bitchiness or your assholeness to just fend off the world, and this way of being shields up all the time and being really, really aggressive with everybody all the time, being really, really comfortable telling people no or telling people to fuck off, that can be a really big part of your Scorpio rising energy. And, I definitely had to learn to tone that back, right? Because it was basically destroying my life. It was making it impossible for me to interact with the world. And that leads us all the way through to, okay, so yes, Scorpio is very hidden. Yes, Scorpio can be very aggressive, but what is it really in its deepest manifestations? It is about depth and about transformation, okay? Depth and transformation. Scorpio wants to penetrate to the deepest, darkest depths of something and then bring the light. Now, this is where you can weave together your entire chart. If you have other aspects in your chart that have elements of being like a light keeper, Virgo, a light bringer, Capricorn, or just being the sun itself, Leo, or Aries, right? Just being the flame. Different zodiac signs have different elements of how they bring the light, how they be the light. You pair that with your Scorpio rising to get your own kind of unique spin on this, and understand that your Scorpio rising, because the rising sign in my interpretation is how you interact with the world, among other things, but that's an important aspect of it in my mind. So you interact with the world, Scorpio rising interacts with the world through depth experiences, trying to penetrate to the depth, the deepest, darkest depth, and then bring understanding, bring the light of day, and also bring light to whatever is there, right? Whatever might be there. So this constant seeking of depth. I know that I personally struggle with socializing, not because, well, I used to think it's because I don't like people. It turns out I actually really fucking love people. What I struggle with is the superficial kind of social atmosphere, which is funny because I'm actually a Gemini moon, and Gemini rules the social scene, right? But my Gemini moon is in the 8th house, which takes us back to Scorpio. So unless you have some like Gemini or Aquarius energy really allowing you to understand the social scene, with Scorpio rising, you can struggle with day-to-day social interactions because they're not satisfying, right? And you can look at anything and go, okay, this was fine. I did this thing, it was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. It might have been enjoyable. And yet I'm not satisfied. I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper. Nothing is satisfying unless you're interacting with it on a really deep level. So that reminds me, Scorpio rising can be very investigative, right? You see this more with Scorpio moons, actually. Scorpio moons, the kind of people that they will constantly say, there has to be more to it. There has to be more to it. You give Scorpio moon a simple answer and they go, nah, has to be more to it. And they constantly will do this forever, right? Scorpio rising will do that to an extent, but not really in the same way. But you could definitely have a very investigative type of thing going on. It's interesting. I don't actually see, as I'm saying that, I feel like it could be a little bit misconstrued. With Scorpio rising, maybe some people might think that we want to like stick our nose into other people's businesses, or that we would gossip, or that we would try to like spy on people and stuff. I've never seen a Scorpio rising do that, and for whatever reason, I attract a lot of Scorpio energy. I interact with a lot of Scorpio energy on a regular basis. It's how we vibe, right? But I've never actually seen a Scorpio rising person be like that. I guess it's possible with some very low vibe Scorpio rising that they could try to like spy on people and try to like learn other people's secrets. But I don't really think that would actually come from the rising energy. But who knows, right? Anything is possible. So really what it is Scorpio rising really, really flourishes when you can get one-on-one with someone, okay? So if you're a Scorpio rising and you're watching this and you're trying to understand, how do I interact with people in a way that I would find more satisfying, right? Because the going out for coffee and chit-chat probably isn't going to satisfy you unless you have big air energy somewhere dominating your chart, right? So Scorpio rising, in order to have those fulfilling human experiences, you need to be able to sit down with someone. I mean, maybe you could do this over coffee. Maybe you could better do this over beer, right? Because you want to be able to touch their soul. Essentially, you want to be able to touch someone's soul. You want to understand who they are completely, and you want to feel who they are completely. And this of course normally plays out in terms of romantic partnerships and, your BFF or family, right? But it can actually play out in terms of brief social interactions. It can, as long as you are unattached, right? Scorpio rising can definitely become over-attached because it's so intense, and it can really attach onto something, because Scorpio rising and Scorpio in general wants to drill down into the depth of something, right? So a certain amount of attachment is almost required there because it helps you attach so that you can drill down and discover the depth, right? So if Scorpio rising wants to interact with the human world on a more satisfying way, but also in a way that respects the way society is, we need to be momentary depth, right? Having a deep interpersonal conversation, maybe with a stranger or with someone you might only know for a couple of weeks, and then allow yourself to be completely non-attached to that person or that group of people, so that you just go in, you go deep, you see their soul, you connect soul to soul, and then you just detach and carry on. I think if Scorpio rising can master the art of non-attachment while still allowing those depth experiences, then you can truly bring... This is tricky. It's not exactly that Scorpio brings the light, but it sort of is. It's more that Scorpio opens up the space for the light to exist. Scorpio penetrates and opens up a space. That's kind of how I see this here. And again, I could go on and 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 on about this. This is barely scratching the surface, but I'm going to call this just a basic introduction to Scorpio rising. What else? You know, it's hard for me to divorce Scorpio from Pluto because I'm in the Pluto and Scorpio generation. That would have to be a separate video, but just a shout out here to all of my fellow Pluto and Scorpio cohort, right? Something a little bit different about our Pluto placement it gives us a different take on the victim-perpetrator relationship, because Scorpio and Pluto and this whole thing, this is also where victim-perpetrator dynamic exists, because there's a power dynamic here, right? There's a power dynamic here. The Pluto and Scorpio generation has a little bit of a different take on this because it's easier for this particular group of people, this entire generation. Pluto was in Scorpio for like 10 years, right? Like the mid-80s to the mid-90s. It is easier for us to see how the victim-perpetrator dynamic is actually one thing, okay? Is actually one thing, is actually two sides of the same coin, that it is a project that is co-created, right? The victim-perpetrator dynamic is a project that is co-created. And I can definitely tell you, I recently went through a whole process of understanding my Pluto in Scorpio on my Ascendant, right? In the first house. Pluto in the 12th house is a little different, well, quite a lot of different, right? But Pluto on the Ascendant in Scorpio in the first house, it was like I started to understand that in the course of all of my lives, I have, like, my victim self and my perpetrator self kind of swallowed each other and became me. So if you watch a lot of my videos, especially on my other channel, my tarot channel, you'll notice that I always say that when you're experiencing something negative being done to you and it feels like you're under attack, this can either be on a human level or on a mystical level or whatever, I always say that somehow, some way, this is what I've learned from my own experience, somehow, some way, it's always me doing that to myself. Even if the person is like an actual human doing something to me, I can always look at them and understand, somehow that is me doing this to myself. And I always have this understanding of, I've done this to myself, this is always me. And even when I've had some really terrifying spiritual experiences, right, mystical experiences, encountering extremely freaky, scary, nefarious energy, I've always understood, oh, this is actually me doing this to myself. And I know that doesn't always make sense to people, right? It's like, well, no, it's not you, it's someone else doing this to you. But there is something about Scorpio, and especially if you have Pluto in Scorpio, and especially if you have Pluto in Scorpio in the first house, you can understand that, oh, it is actually me. Somehow, some way, it is actually me. So there is an understanding, like with Scorpio rising, there is a closing of the gap of the victim-perpetrator relationship. How much you experience that is going to be different depending on like everything else in your chart, right? But there's just that potential here to really understand that victim-perpetrator is contained as one entity inside of the self. And as opposed to, you know, people with different placements, with different types of charts, they might have to take that all the way up to source consciousness, to unity consciousness, to, you know, we are all one consciousness, to understand how victim-perpetrator are the same being, right? But with the Scorpio rising, especially with Pluto, if you have Pluto and Scorpio in the first house, you're going to get to that conclusion a lot more easily than other people. And that is a really great gift, because Scorpio, so I've been on this whole ramble, I know, about myself, and what I was saying isn't going to resonate with everybody, but the point I think I'm trying to get to here is that Scorpio, especially in its rising state, it's about like digesting negative energy, right? Energies that people call negative, but really I think I want to be calling them unpleasant energies, or even energies that we don't prefer, right? Unpleasant or unpreferable energies we think we don't like, and we think, ew, I don't like this. But Scorpio rising can truly digest that, okay? Can truly digest that, especially if you have Pluto and Scorpio. You're going to be able to digest that really quickly, and, well, it might not seem quick, and it might not feel easy, but actually if you can compare to how some other people are struggling to digest the same energy, you will see that your Scorpio rising, and especially if you have the Pluto going on there, it is a gift to you to help you digest these energies that you do not prefer, and then understand how they are simply all that is, and you can transform, right? And you can transform it all inside of you. You can do the inner alchemy and transform it. And of course, we can't talk about Scorpio without talking about the phoenix rising from the ashes, right? Scorpio is the phoenix. So with phoenix rising, well, that's basically what you are, right? That's what you are. Different aspects with Scorpio and with Pluto also bring the same energy, so this is not limited to Scorpio rising, of course, but it is emphasized with Scorpio rising, where you can reinvent yourself after, like, you can hit rock bottom over and over and over again. It doesn't matter it doesn't even matter how long you live at rock bottom. You can transform yourself. You can coalesce yourself from the ashes and rise like the phoenix over and over and over again. You literally cannot be destroyed, right? This is why Scorpio energy is so important. And when you notice people who have like a conspicuous absence of Scorpio energy, they do lack a certain type of intensity. They do lack a certain type of, I don't know if fortitude is really the right word, and certainly it's not strength, because strength comes from like various different placements, right? It's resilient. It's not resilience either. What is the word? I don't know if we really have one in English. It's like the capacity to self-resurrect, okay? The capacity for transformation, the capacity to be like the phoenix rising from the ashes. It is the capacity to self-resurrect, okay? To literally be ashes on the floor and to resurrect yourself from that independently, without aid from others, right? Maybe others can help you do this, but ultimately Scorpio rising, because the rising sign is in your first house, right? So it's related to your body and to your kind of soul's energy, right? To self-resurrect from the ashes. And this is an innate skill that you have, and your life might have to train you to push you to learn to do this. But once you have done it once, then you go, oh, it doesn't matter how many times I am destroyed. I can resurrect myself from the ashes. I am in a state of constant transformation, and I am the phoenix rising from the ashes. So I'm going to leave this video there. So much more to say about all of this. maybe one day in some other video I can get deeper into Scorpio and Pluto and the Pluto generations and Pluto through the houses. All of this is so relevant here. Oh my god, but it's like the project of a lifetime, so I will have to pace myself. Okay. So that is it for this video. You can check out all my links down below. I have private astrology readings, which I do using tarot cards and my interpretation of your birth chart. I have another tarot reading channel for starseeds and lightworkers. Newsletter sign up where I do astrology bi-weekly or bi-monthly, every 2 weeks. Right? Every 2 weeks I send out an email with the transits to let you know what's going on, and I hope to see you on some other level. Talk to you guys later. Bye.